Can you share best practice for test automation on cloud platforms such as AWS and Open Shift? What are the differences and similarities between cloud and non-cloud test automation that we should consider?
It's a hard one.
Mm,
I don't have experience in OpenShift, but we do use AWS at work. And I guess for best practices, not really a best practice that I'm going to say. It's just like what I'm seeing is working well. So if you can sort of leverage, using the AWS SDK. So for example, for us, because we're using JavaScript, we actually have some tests that checks if appropriate logs, for example, have been sent to AWS CloudWatch, and we also have some tests that sort of simulate some real world scenarios that will be very difficult to automate if we're gonna try to do it on like traditional way. So what I mean by that is we actually have like a feature in one of our work. It's to clear the cache for our articles. So for example, if an editor updates an article, then you want the updates to be displayed on the front end without any sort of downtime. So previously, the sort of approach that were suggested to us was, okay, why don't you automate something on the WordPress API to create some article and then check the front end to sort of verify that the update is there. But then that was very flaky because sometimes like WordPress API would return, a non-200 status code. So what we did was we leverage the AWS SDK to send like a subscription message that will trigger a lambda. So I'm getting a bit technical, but basically it will trigger the lambda that will clear the cache and then will sort of log if everything is good. So we chose to do it that way because it was faster. We didn't had to write a lot of integration tests between WordPress, which is third party, and in our service. So it was much more reliable. So if you can utilize the different you spilled it. Okay. So if you can utilize AWS SDK, because can you ask Daddy please? You can do those interesting things that you can achieve, and you have to sort of speak with your developers, speak with your team, because we found out about this by speaking to our developer who's like really great in like AWS. So make sure you get everyone involved. OpenShift, I don't have experience, so I can't answer that. So in terms of differences between cloud and non-cloud test automation, so you need to consider a couple of things. So first, costs. Definitely, cloud-based tools are much more expensive, but then they're much more scalable. You don't need to host the infrastructure yourself, which can be quite time consuming. So if you just want like all those like setup or all those burden, then you can just put them on the on the cloud-based provider. You can also sort of get a much more effective like test environment if you're using like cloud-based solutions. So for example, with performance testing, like in some cases, if you need to run like a high number of users, like high number of like concurrency users, then in some cases it's much better off to use cloud-based solution because their infrastructure is more robust. They have like great SLA too if you need to sort of ask them some questions, so they can always come back to you. And it's it's similar with cross-browser testing as well. So rather than mommy did. So rather than setting up like the different browsers or the different machines locally, there's a lot of cloud-based solutions out there like Browser Stack or Sauce Labs that can sort of like handle those for you, so you can just focus on actually just running your tests. But then downside, because I know there's some security concerns, because obviously your data is being hosted in their on their cloud provider. So you just need to sort of get your security team involved and make sure like everything is all good. Yeah.